Episode 59, Existence Without Negativity.
You're listening to the very best podcast in the world on health, wealth, and happiness. Please remember to leave a review and share with all your friends and family. And here is your host, Lars Hilser.
And welcome to the end of another week. Well, it's not entirely the end yet, but tomorrow is going to be such a fucking exciting exercise that we might as well call the week to an end and look forward to tomorrow's episode, which is going to be fucking exciting. Really. In that sense, welcome to the very best podcast in the world, Personal Supremacy Through Health, Wealth, and Happiness. In today's episode, we're going to talk about an existence without negativity. And I wasn't really certain whether I was going to put a question mark behind the title or an exclamation mark, or a period, or just simply let it sink in without any further punctuation following it, because it is a question. You can ask the question, can you exist without negativity? And the answer is, I don't know. For me, I've, kind of gotten rid of most of it in my life. I don't know if you can live entirely without it. No idea. I haven't tried. In any case, the positive aspects of my life certainly outweigh those that could be considered negative. Sure, if I spend enough time, I can put a negative spin to almost anything. But that's not really the point, right? If we phrase this thing as a statement and say existence without negativity, then it's a mission statement more than anything else. And that's actually, I think, which we should start with. It's really, this episode is going to be for you to find ways to get negativity out of your life and to focus more on the positive aspects. And there's a multitude of reasons why you should do that. Number one being mental health, obviously, because, if you spin everything into a negative context, then that's going to have consequences on your mental health, because it's a downward spiral that's very difficult to get out of by yourself. If you surround yourself with negative people, or let's put it that way, you start out with a negative mindset, you inevitably start to surround yourself with negative people. These negative people will give you more negative influence, and there you go down the drain. Dramatically put, reality is a tidbit different, but it gets the point I'm trying to make across, I believe. Now, how do we combat negativity in our life? And that's a very important and interesting question, rather than phrasing this sentence as such. So let's embark on a mission to kind of ban negativity. Not altogether. You're not going to be able to do that, because there's, north of 7.5 billion idiots out there who will try to influence or strengthen negative thoughts in you, because there's one thing that's easy to control, and that's people who are scared. And anxiety about a lot of stuff is really what causes a societal, dismay. I don't know, a negative, very broad negative society, which we are experiencing right now. Everybody's getting misinformation from all different corners of the media outlets. And that's really a difficult thing. We're going to go into that in a little bit more detail in the furtherance of this mission towards existence without negativity, exclamation mark. So, first of all, I think, though, it is very important to focus on the bright side of life. You have to realize that you're pretty fucking lucky to be alive. You're listening to this episode of a podcast on a digital device which wouldn't have been available even as much as 30 years ago. You more likely than not have a roof over your head when it rains. If you're one of those lucky son of a bitches that can sit out on the beach all day long, good on you. Don't make me even more envious. And that's really what counts. If you lose your fucking wallet, yeah, it stinks. I get it, but it's not the end of the world. And you have to realize and become humble in your expectations towards life, right? There's certain things, people can take away your liberty and everything if you go to jail, if you get caught. That's one thing my dad always said, you can do whatever you want, just don't get caught. and, and I adhere to that. But at the end of the day, taking your life away from you, that's pretty rare, right? If you look at it in perspective, right? Even with the Rona going around, you've got a very substantial chance of surviving. Maybe you'll get a scar somewhere, but scars tell stories. So scars are cool. In fact, my entire body is full of them because, it's been on every journey you get injured somehow. And so, it's like, take it with the necessary grain of sugar, not salt. So, how do you manifest the bright side of life, and that's a very difficult exercise. We did that in an episode a while ago. I didn't have time to look it up, so please do so, where we, kind of emphasized on positive thoughts rather, and defeated negative thoughts with positive thoughts, which is very important. For instance, I don't know, if a cup falls down or a glass falls down in the kitchen, or, the most gorgeous thing to fall down in the kitchen is a liter glass bottle of Coca-Cola. You have never seen anything as fucking sticky, to mop away and find every little piece of glass shrapnel that got bombed through your entire place. Yeah, you can get all foobar about it. You can call it the greatest clusterfuck, and in fact, it is that. But where is it going to get you? Is it going to prevent you from doing it again? No. You probably had slippery hands. Learn your lesson. But don't really get pissed about yourself, because shit like that happens. Shit happens always. Life is full of it. And for me, a lot of these things have just become, I don't know, humorous, really. I stand back, I chuckle, and then I get going in, mopping it up and, I don't know, collecting the glass. Well, it's not really splinters, it's shrapnel that you get out of every corner in the place. And then, you kind of go over it with a vacuum cleaner, and then 20 minutes later, you're done, event over. And that's really a way to look at it. I know it's easy to say for someone that is in a position, where not much can go wrong, but at the end of the day, I think it's the humility that you develop towards yourself and the world. And you realize, you have to come to realize that a lot of the shit that you hold dear is just not important. That for me was a very important lesson. But again, I'm kind of expressing or retelling events of my journeys in life, which I already have. So, for those of you just tuning in, listen to the past episodes. There's a lot of reference that does make sense. So it's about really taking an event that happens, which, could have a negative spin to it, and adding a positive one to it, turning it the other way around, and even just teaching yourself to laugh about a mishap that happens, is quite easy. It sounds more challenging than it actually is. If you've consciously done it a few times, it becomes habituous. And therefore, the next time you drop something, you just laugh about it, instead of getting pissed about yourself for dropping it. Because if you're true to yourself, you're going to realize very quickly that it's not going to get you anywhere, to get pissed about yourself. You're going to criticize yourself, which is, wrong. You can reflect always upon your actions, but you shouldn't criticize yourself because you're putting yourself down instead of lifting yourself up, which you should do all fucking day long. And that's a very important lesson to take away from this episode, is to, this very stupid song, always look on the bright side of life. There is always a bright side. You got a roof over your head. You've got a pretty fucking expensive device that you're listening on that you're listening to podcasts on, and you're probably healthy. Yeah, your bones ache. God damn it. I'm 41. I'm not 25 anymore. I wake up in the morning, first thing I do is crack my bones, just to get everything sorted again. And no, I'm not 60 yet. So who am I to complain? Well, I'm 41, so it's like putting everything into perspective, I think, is lesson number one. Now, let's move on and compensate negative occurrences with positive aspects of life. And I think we went into great detail on the first kind of aspect, on, the bright side of life, looking for that and looking at it and putting into perspective what just happened. Yeah, you get fired from your job. Maybe it was a great job, and maybe the next job is going to be shittier, but it's going to give you an income. And yeah, maybe you're going to miss no, you're not going to miss your colleagues. If your colleagues are your friends, they're going to hang out with you despite the fact that they work in another company. And if you hang out with them, they're going to tell you all the fucking stories that happen in the company, and you can laugh and chuckle, and you can tell them about the dickheads in your new company, and you're going to be all fucking dandy fine. That it's not the fucking end of the world. And if I see a lot of the aspects and stories shared on social media in particular about what a lot of people deem to be the end of the world by what they're writing, I don't know if they would kill themselves if something really dire would happen to them. And I'd be happy to see that, to be perfectly honest, because there's so much shit that can happen in your life. But to be perfectly blunt, you're going to get over it. And there is always going to be worse shit happening. So, but at the end of the day, it's all about taking it on the light side, and most importantly, being humble. I know that a lot of people around the world are going into financial troubles now with the Rona going around and all the job loss and all the financial devastation that's going to start to hit probably next year or a year after next at the latest. But at the end of the day, if you're going to lose your house because you didn't get a paycheck for 3 months, then you were overspending. It's that simple, and that's really, something that has to be put into perspective also. Now, we started out with determining whether or not we were going to put a question mark or an exclamation mark behind the title of the episode. And for the next point that I'm going to cover, which is deflecting negative influence from your life, I don't know which would be more appropriate, in that you're getting bombarded very subtly, but in a way that is constant, by your television set, which in a lot of cultures has become a predominant part of life, and God damn it, has made everybody sure that at least once a day you get the news. And the news isn't the news. The news is a cesspool of fear mongering laid upon you like a carpet bomb every single fucking day. The same is true for the radio. The same is true, and ever more so in social media feeds. Now, as for the TV, there's a very easy thing to do with it. Just shut it the fuck down. Pull the plug, make it inconvenient to turn it on. And if you want to turn it on, watch Netflix or something, without the entire bullshit news carpet bombing negativity going on. And that's the solution for the TV, if you can't throw it out. For me, I work on it. It's my monitor as it is our Netflix watching device. But to be perfectly blunt, it would take me north of an hour to hook it up to a satellite cable or anything, to get normal television. We just don't do that. If I want to watch something newsworthy that's really there, like a current event, there's a live stream for it. I'll pull up YouTube or whatever. And if the internet crashes like it did on 9/11, well, then, I'll get my news on Twitter or whatever. And as for the radio, there's alternatives for that. You're listening to one of them. And, if it's not from my stories that are of interest to you, there are tons of podcasts out there. I heard Rogan say that there are millions of podcast shows out there for every freaking interest. There are good and less good podcast search engines, but, try, beside this show, maybe you'll find another that's very interesting, and tickle your fancy. Just look out. Then, if you want to listen to music, without the stupid radio people interrupting you and trying to be funny, there's Spotify and Apple Music and Deezer and, all of these other music services out there. It's about really, I think that's the bottom line, tuning out of the negativity carpet bombing. That's, I think, the number one lesson to take away from this, right? As for the social media feeds, which are taking a lot of people down a negativity spiral, that's your fault. I addressed that, I think, about 3 episodes ago, where I put into perspective the content that was shown in The Social Dilemma, the Netflix documentary. And that's bad, but that's on you. You can tune out of those as well. Until now, you can still manipulate the algorithms. It's a very interesting story that, for instance, if you get a clean YouTube account and you search for puppies for half a day, you only get puppy videos until, until get-no. That's all you'll get, puppy videos or kitten videos or whatever. And still, if you want to watch something worthwhile, listen to it on a podcast. It just makes more sense. Trust me. You can use your time. Otherwise, if your visual senses are not stimulated or required to catch the program, then you're in a pretty good fix that you actually get shit done while you are taking in information. And, a lot of the shit that you do around the house, for instance, these mundane tasks, if you've got a video running, it'll slow you down. If you have an inspirational podcast going in the background on your headphones or something while you're vacuum cleaning, you're going to be faster. And, well, at least it's going to feel faster, the completion of the task. Now, one last very important aspect we have also discussed, I believe it was episode 5, is accepting that a lot of the negative input that you get, you cannot control, which makes it so fucking frustrating in itself that it continues, or it really speeds up the negativity spiral. And that's one thing you have to fathom. Can I control it, or can I not control it? And if you can't, disregard it. There's no reason to get worked up about the government putting new measures in place, controlling your life even further in the Rona times. It's totally bizarre. Why would you waste even a thought about it? There's nothing you can do. The collective consciousness of the people needs to feel really pissed off, and then there will be movements to hook up with. Then there will be action to be taken. But until that happens, until there is a majority of the people in a society, they're complacent with it, they're okay with it, there's not a lot you can do about it. And that's really one example for pretty much every piece of global news that you get, that you can just disregard. Just don't give a fuck. That's a very important thing you have to really understand and learn. Now that we have concluded with this episode, let's go over the main points again. Looking at the bright side of life is, the very important thing, putting everything into perspective, compensating negative occurrences with positive aspects of life. Like I said, roof over your head, expensive iPhone, or, mobile device that you're listening to this to, or computer. Deflecting negative influence from everything media-wise and replacing that with, no negativity aspects to it. And number 4, realizing that most of the input you get, you cannot control anyhow. And if there's something you can control, it's in your local environment. And those are the very important takeaways, I think, of this episode. In that sense, I wish you a successful day. And if you've already had your successful day, I wish you a successful night. No, a good night. Whatever. As always, questions, feedback, criticism, and everything else, please goes to the email address, theverybestpodcastintheworld@gmail.com. And I look forward to hearing you tomorrow to a totally cool exercise. Probably one of the coolest ones we've had. Peace out, and see you tomorrow.